the complete control over Haruhi Suzumiya. It was that time again at North High. The arts festival was a few weeks away and students were coming together to come up with ideas on what they should do. The school was busier than ever, even with breaks after lessons. Almost every area of the school was packed with students walking to and fro. The SOS Brigade was, as usual, hanging out in their club room doing anything but being able to relax. As expected, Haruhi Suzumiya was making sure that Kyan, Mikuru, Yuki and Koizumi were all paying full attention during the meeting they were having. Haruhi, like the previous year, was once again in charge of coming up with a project for the arts festival. She was stressed out, as she was struggling to come up with any ideas. She acted like there were only a few days to think of something, even though there was still plenty of time to plan things out. Oh man, this is frustrating. Can't you guys think of anything? I'm doing all the work around here. Haruhi ranted. Oh come on, we have plenty of time to prepare. Can't you just call it a day already? It's nearly time for class. Kyan moaned. No way. The arts festival is something we at the SOS Brigade must make sure is something we excel at. I can't spend one day from now on not making any plans. If we are to succeed, I understand where she's coming from. You're bound to come up with something truly great. If you keep at it without anything keeping it in your mind, Koizumi responded. You're not helping, you know. Kyan grumbled. Exactly, I don't care. If it takes time out of your homework, all of you are to keep your minds focused on coming up with ideas. Haruhi agreed. As she raised her voice slightly, Kyan sighed, as he knew he wasn't going to get anywhere. Just then the school bell rang, meaning that break was now over. The group grabbed their things and headed out of the club room. I'll join you in a sec, Kyan. You go on ahead. I'll do clean-up duty today, Haruhi told him. Before he left the room, Kyan had no objections to that, so he left the room. Haruhi put away the equipment that was used by the others, which were a board game and cups of tea. After she was done, she grabbed her bag and opened the door to head back to class. As she opened it, standing right in front of her was a strange figure wearing a long black hooded cloak. Haruhi stood there with a confused look on her face. Who are you supposed to be? Some student making plans for an arts festival event? The stranger didn't respond, standing completely still. Haruhi grew tired of waiting and walked past him. Whatever, weirdo, she said, as she locked the club room with her back turned. The stranger reached out his left arm and put it on Haruhi's shoulder. She turned around, reacting to his strange behavior. Hey jerk, what's the big idea? She shouted, as she was prepared to punch him in the face. But just as she did, the stranger then held out a music box towards Haruhi. She stopped, looking quite confused as to why she was looking at the music box. The stranger opened it up and a tune began to play. "Oh, look, freak, if you're trying to impress me with that, then I'm." She then found herself being unable to resist listening to the music. Her hands then flopped down and her posture was slanted along with her mouth being half open as she continued to listen. The stranger chuckled as Haruhi had a blank look on her face, as her eyes now looked completely lifeless. The music box stopped and the stranger began to laugh menacingly. "Now then, dear, come with me," he said, as he began to walk away. Haruhi didn't speak a word and began to follow him as they both headed out of the school through the main entrance. By the time he had made Haruhi follow him, all the students and staff were already back in class, so the stranger had nothing to fear about being noticed. As they headed into the town, many people noticed them walking by. At this point, they were aware of Haruhi Suzumiya and her crazy antics. Took what they saw as nothing more than her hanging out with one of her odd friends. This went perfectly with the hooded figure's plan, as he continued to chuckle to himself. Soon they reached an alleyway which led towards a set of stairs to go down. As they reached the bottom, the stranger opened the door and they both headed inside and closed the door, which Haruhi was ordered to do. The main attraction of the room was an inbuilt stage along with a bunch of equipment. Costumes were everywhere around the building. It made Mikuru's set of outfits look like nothing excellent. "I've finally been able to capture and control this girl. This music box is simply magnificent," he told himself with delight. He turned his attention to Haruhi, who was standing still with the same lifeless look on her face. "You, my dear, you are going to be simply perfect for the show I have planned." He raised his hand into the air, really getting into the moment. "I'm the great Mariano for tonight's entertainment. You are going to be the big star for my puppet show." He boomed out loud. "Are you excited about this?" "As much as I'm Miss Suzumiya," he asked the girl, who still stood perfectly still. He walked on over to her and made her nod her head up and down by putting his hand on the back of her head. "Excellent. Now then, while I pick out a costume for you, why don't you have a little dance while I do that?" Mariano took out his music box and began to make it play. As the music played, Haruhi then began to dance gracefully whilst Mariano picked out an outfit. "Why, this is simply perfect for you. We shall begin the first part of the show with this one," he said, as he held out a ballerina costume. He commanded Haruhi to go into the changing room to prepare for the show, to which she did. Some time later, Haruhi had now changed into her ballerina outfit and was sitting down on a chair which was on stage. Mariano had got out a device he had created himself for the show. It was a marionette-style harness which consisted of straps made to attach themselves to various limbs of the human body, strings which attached themselves to the straps, and in front of the stage was a control mechanism which consisted of levers to control each limb strap. The head attachment was a little different from the straps. Mariano had wrapped a pink strap around Haruhi's head, which was connected to a ring which was held up by strings to give the head some movement. Mariano was finishing up putting straps on Haruhi's left arm, as the rest of her body had straps attached. With the wrist straps attached, Haruhi's wrists were suspended in mid-air. He looked up to Haruhi's blank-eyed face. "You're all ready to go now, my little puppet. Let us begin the show." He then headed off the stage to head towards the lever mechanism. Next to him was a record player which has a vinyl ready to be played. He gave one last look at Haruhi, as he then began to play the music. The music that played was the same tune that was used in the music box. It continued to have the same effect on Haruhi, which made Mariano's control over her much stronger. He pulled the first lever on the mechanism which controlled the string strap on Haruhi's right hand, making it rise up into the air. Then he began to pull a series of levers which pulled Haruhi out of her chair and began to dance stiffly. The moves that Mariano was making her do didn't come across that of a graceful ballerina, but more of a normal marionette. It didn't matter to him, as he enjoyed making the girl dance to however he made her do. Haruhi was wobbling around and floating slightly above the floor, as the strings pulled her up slightly. Mariano then pulled some levers to make Haruhi stiffly walk off the stage and towards him. The strings were not able to reach far enough to him, as she then fell onto the floor. Laughed from her fall, as he then pulled every lever possible which put her back on her feet very quickly. Haruhi stood in place wobbling, as the string strap on her back pulled the most weight. Marino took a break from pulling the levers, as he walked on over to Haruhi. "That was wonderful, my beautiful little marionette. You're an absolute star who will go down in my personal history books." He laughed to himself, as he pinched on both of Haruhi's arm strings and moved them to make her clap her hands frantically. "For the next part of the show, I think we shall have a new outfit for you. But first we will need to get you a partner for the next act, so I will be right back." He now had planned in mind to get another one of the SOS Brigade members that we were aware of. "Before I go, I don't want to keep you standing around doing nothing. Why don't you have another little dance to yourself whilst I go and get our next puppet?" he told the unresponsive Haruhi. He flicked a switch on the lever mechanism which put itself on autopilot, as the levers moved randomly. The strings began to manipulate Haruhi's body once again, as Mariano left the large room and locked the door. "I'm coming for you next, Mrs. Satana," he said to himself menacingly. 2 days since Haruhi and Mikuru had been absent from school. Kain and the others were still getting on with regular life and trying to come up with ideas for the cultural festival whilst Haruhi was away. Kain had decided to head into school early before lessons started so he could try and help towards thinking of what to do for the festival. Thinking of ideas proved to be quite challenging, not having the leader around, but Kain thought, if he didn't then Haruhi would be angry at him. Itsuki was occupied in helping out with his classmates to do another play for the festival, and Yuki didn't contribute anything, as she continued to quietly read books. "Man, it feels like I'm the only one even trying at this point," Kain thought, as he sat in the club room with Yuki. "Maybe I shouldn't even bother right now. Haruhi would come up with anything and she's the only one enthusiastic enough." Yuki got off of her chair and put her book away in her bag. "Heading off to class, Nagato? There's still 20 minutes left before classes begin." Yuki nodded her head in response. "Well, all right then. Catch you later." Yuki took her leave. 10 minutes were left on the clock till Kain had finally given up on thinking of ideas. "Screw this. I'll just head off to class now. He grabbed his bag and opened the door. What happened, as he opened it, came as a surprise. There was Haruhi, standing outside the clubroom. Haruhi? Hey, are you feeling any now? He asked, feeling somewhat relieved to see her again. Haruhi had a blank, lifeless look on her face, as her lifeless eyes stared towards him. I'm fine. I'm looking for the one called Tsuruya. Where can I find her? She asked him in a monotone voice. Tsuruya. She usually appears around the lockers in the main entrance around this time. You know that. You sure you're feeling okay? I'm fine. I shall locate Tsuruya. I must speak with her about something. Karen found the tone of her voice rather unsettling. Well, okay then. You just sound odd, Bizarre. I guess I'm just tired. I shall locate Tsuruya, Haruhi responded, as she began to walk away from Kyan to locate Tsuruya. Okay, I'll see you in class then, Kyan called out, as he headed in the opposite direction to go to class. Man, she must really be out of it today. Maybe she should have stayed home a bit more. Meanwhile, back in Mariano's theater, the madman was laughing to himself happily. My power over Haruhi is simply incredible. That boy had no idea that I'm directly speaking through the girl's body. This couldn't be any easier. Behind him, Mikuru was walking over to Mariano dressed in her maid outfit, carrying a plate with a cup of tea on it. She handed the tea to him with robotic-looking movements. Thank you, my puppet. I look forward to drinking this, he said, as he took it from her hands. Now stand over there and dance for me, slave, he commanded her. As Mikuru walked in front of him, she began to dance like a wind-up doll, whilst Mariano focused his efforts on Haruhi. He was able to psychically see the world through Haruhi's eyes, as he remained in charge of making whatever he spoke out loud come out of her mouth. It was like a ventriloquist act for him. The mind-controlled Haruhi soon arrived at the main entrance. Other students who were around noticed she was back but didn't say anything to her as they passed by. Then Mariano, through Haruhi's eyes, saw Tsuruya by her locker. Haruhi walked up over to her and stood still close to her. Tsuruya turned around to notice Haruhi. Oh gosh, you made me jump there, Haruhi, and welcome back, she exclaimed, feeling happy to see her. Kyan told me that you were absent for a few days. You feel better now? Mariano then took action, as he began to speak through Haruhi. I'm fine. I would like you to come on over to the back of the school. I have something I would like to show you. Tsuruya was a little bit confused by her tone of voice, but she didn't want to mention it in case she might offend her. Sure, okay. Strange place to wanna show me something, but yeah, let's go. Excellent, Haruhi responded as the girls headed out of the school. Once they arrived at the back of the school, Tsuruya was beginning to get curious to what it was Haruhi wanted to show her. Okay then, Haruhi, what's the super special thing you wanna show me? Haruhi then reached out to her school skirt pocket to reveal what was Mariano's music box. She opened it up and showed it in front of Tsuruya, as the music began to play. Hey, there, that's pretty interesting. Where did you get the music's powers? Had now taken effect on Tsuruya. Her eyes went lifeless and her arms dangled downwards, as she could not resist the music. Mariano then began to speak through Haruhi again. This time the words that came out of her mouth sounded like something Mariano himself would say. You, Tsuruya, are now my obedient puppet to control. You shall now follow Haruhi Suzumiya to where I, Mariano, am located. The music came to a stop and Haruhi closed the box, putting it back in her pocket. She began to walk on ahead, as the now mind-controlled Chiruya followed her. The girls had not reached the town, as they were getting closer to Mariano's hideout. Up ahead, Kayan's friends Taniguchi and Kunikida were running as fast as they could. They were late for school and were arguing at each other. "I should have just left you behind, you jerk. Now we're both gonna get punished. Oversleeping is not cool." Kunikida said. "You didn't have to wait there for me, you know," Taniguchi replied, trying to catch his breath. "You promised me you'd be up early to make plans for the cultural festival before class. Bet you were watching movies all night again." "I did not. I went to bed at 3 a.m. Taniguchi replied, realizing what he said wasn't helping the situation. Kunikida sighed, as they both continued to run. Just then they passed by Haruhi and Chiruya, who were still walking towards the hideout. The boys dashed by so fast that they didn't notice at first who they were. Kunikida then stopped, as he just realized who they were. "Hey, stop a sec. It's Suzumiya and Chiruya over there," he said, as Taniguchi stopped to wait what he said, as he looked back to notice them. "Suzumiya hasn't been in school the past few days. What's she doing over there dressed in her school clothes with Chiruya walking away from the path to school?" "I dunno." "Hey, come on, you're gonna make us late," Taniguchi said, not really concerned with Haruhi. He ran on ahead, as Kunikida soon followed. He continued to wonder why the girls were walking away from school. The girls had finally arrived at Mariano's theater. The cloaked madman walked on over to the girls. "Congratulations, Haruhi, you've been an excellent puppet indeed. Go on over to the table over there and take the costume on there to get ready for the show. Mikuru is already dressed and strung up on stage having a dance to herself," he instructed Haruhi, as she did what her master commanded. Mikuru was dressed up in a French-style dress colored red with puffy sleeves. She had long black arm gloves on her arms and wore black leather ankle boots on her feet. Her marionette harness was set on a topilot, which was making her do a stiff-looking can dance. Mariano then looked on over at the lifeless Chiruya standing still. "Welcome, Chiruya, my newest puppet for the collection. We have been expecting you here for a while now. It is wonderful to welcome you into the family." He took Chiruya's hand, as they walked on over to the stage to watch Mikuru. "Here we have the greatest puppet show of all time. As you are the newest one of my puppets, you get to perform on stage with your fellow marionettes. It shall be wonderful." Later on, Mariano was at Haruhi and Mikuru's controls, making them do a can dance. Chiruya was sat in a chair with restraints locking her hands and ankles in front of the stage, made to watch the girls dance. Chiruya stared towards the girls lifelessly, never once blinking or moving at all. Mariano brought the dance to a close, as he walked over to Chiruya. "Bravo, that was a wonderful dance, my puppets. Next up will be Mikuru and Chiruya." He took off Haruhi and Mikuru's string straps and commanded Haruhi to change into more casual clothes, whilst he told Mikuru to change into the outfit he handed over to her. As the girls walked to the changing room, he looked at Chiruya. "You're up next, my newest puppet. Go and put this outfit on and come back to the stage. When you are ready." He handed some clothes to Chiruya, as she walked to the changing room. Soon the next part of the show was underway. Haruhi was strapped down to the chair with restraints, whilst Mariano controlled Chiruya and Mikuru. Chiruya and Mikuru were dressed up as cheerleaders with pom-poms strapped to their hands. Mariano made them shake their arms and raise their legs up and down in a rhythm. Occasionally he would make Chiruya bash Mikuru on the head with a pom-pom. Chiruya, you fit in wonderfully as one of my puppets. The next few acts are going to be fantastic, he called out whilst manipulating the girls. Meanwhile, back at North High, the first lesson was already over and Inigachi and Kunikata had only just arrived. They were told off by the teacher but were too exhausted to care. Kain had grown seriously concerned about why Haruhi never came to class after seeing her. He wanted to go and find her, until Kunikata came up to him. Kain, you know anything about why Suzumiya and Chiruya were in town not long ago walking away from the school path? Wait, what? I didn't know about this. I know Haruhi said she needed to find her, but why would they be in town? Something's really fishy here. Kain immediately headed out of the classroom and left the school. This is seriously beginning to get weird. I'll just look for Haruhi myself. Kain rushed as fast as he could down the hill to go to town.